Hello YouTube, welcome back to Scruffy Tales and another video where we will take a look at the Ukrainian front line. And we start off with a strategical overview. We will use maps from the 22nd of June because they're not updated as of yet, as far as I know, on the 23rd. So moving on. And as always, oh yeah, if you have a beep beep beep, my headset shuts down, so I have to restart it. It takes 5 seconds, just so you know. And let's go over this. Russia is attacking up in the north around Kupiansk. They're also attacking from Cremina over here, Cremina. And this is what we will focus on today. The Russian strikes here in the north. Down here at Bakhmut, fighting is still going on. Ukraine is putting pressure on Russia, forcing Russia to allocate troops to hold Bakhmut. So I'm thinking this is a diversion to force Russia to allocate troops here. Same thing down here. Hard fighting, not much gains. They are basically trading territory, taking a couple of 100 meters over here, losing a couple of 100 meters down here. Big push from Ukraine over here, trying to gain the high ground here between the blue spots. Ukraine is gaining ground north of Poloy. I think that's important because Poloy is an important railway hub. And Orikhiv, as we know, have been somewhat successful. And over here, close to the lake, there's been some hard fighting with Russia, trying to counterattack and losing tanks and what have you. But we will begin with taking an operational look at Cremina, a bridge too far. And that is located here on the strategical map. Right, Cremina, highway heading west. Lots and lots and lots of bridges crossing this here small river. And this is what I think Russia is after down here in Cremina. They've been trying this since winter during the Russian offensive, trying to push along this highway and reach Saritsne and this here bridge here, which I suspect they need in order, well, they need it in order to reach Luman and also again reach a bridge down here at Sakitne that is vital for heading south and link it up with troops to the south. But initially, for this operation here, the Russians want to push out to the river and use the river as a natural barrier in order to hold and control all this territory. Sorry. And how will they achieve this? Well, as you can tell, farmland, lots and lots of farmland. So Russia is having the same problem as Ukraine is currently facing. They can't cross without losing significant amount of manpower and vehicles, but they need to reach Torske and they need to reach Saritsne to control the bridges. Which is why the southern end of the map here is really interesting. So southern end of Torske, and keep a look at an eye on the woods here. Right? The woods here. Southern end of Torske. Town is moving all the way down here. And look at this. No farmland, no fields, forests. This is where Russia wants to move in, gain access to Torske, and then push north towards the bridges and Saritsne. Right? Like so. So this is what Russia has been doing of late. They have been attacking through the woods. This is where there's been heavy fighting going on over the last couple of days. And Russia wants to use the woods to be able to rely on cover and be able to maneuver without being seen and reach Torske. They don't want to move up here in the open fields. That's where they'll be spotted and killed. They will make the main push down here through the woods. And recently we saw a small update on the map that Russia basically has taken this territory. Not much, but there's hard fighting going on. And in a couple of days we might see more updates on Russia advancing. Who knows? Oh, what's happened down here? That's a glitch. And as we can tell, the ISW map is also acknowledging that Russia is pushing on. Take a look at Debrova. As we move on to the tactical overview of Debrova and Kuzmini and Death in the Woods. Debrova, Kuzmini, and this is the area where Russia has made some gains the last couple of days. I mean, take a look at the terrain here. This is terrain where you can move infantry and you can even move down vehicles. It's difficult with the roads, but they can move down here, maybe into a field and then help out with the fighting. This is much more favorable terrain to wage combat in than out in open farmland. And yeah, we're zooming in on this area that we marked before. So this is the woods that Russia has managed to claim down to the road, I believe. Now, these crosses are open fields, and I wanted to highlight this because even in woods, there are areas that you avoid, like an open field, right? So even in woodlands, you are guided by terrain, and unfavorable terrain, like open fields, infantry avoids it, because if you step out here, you will get shot. A vehicle might try and attempt to rush across, but still, he might get hit by an RPG or NLAW or whatever. It's not advisable. You might set up fire positions and fire across maybe to support units moving around, but that's about it. So yeah, just remember that even in a forest, there will be areas where you will be forced by the terrain to move around, which makes it somewhat easier for a defender to try and figure out where you're going to be attacking. I mean, take a look at this patch of woods here. Where would Russia be attacking from the north and the south? Well, down here, obviously. They won't go here. They will avoid here, and they will avoid here, most likely. So this lane here is their most likely point of attack. So you know that, yeah, we better be ready. We need troops over here, obviously. You need troops over here and along the tree lines as well. But if Russia actually wants to advance and gain ground, it's not the field, it's here. So even in terrain like this, you can guess, I guess is a better term for it. You can guess where the enemy will be coming at you. And so yeah, let's return to the operational map. So Russia will try and move down here, secure this woodland area here, move west and up to Sarichne and Torske, and link up with the territory they've gained here. And once this is done, I believe this is their primary goal, and then only after they've achieved this will they then begin to move north along the road, along the highway, and begin securing one bridge after the other until they have this area. And it will be difficult for Ukraine to reclaim it, since there's a river that will act as a natural barrier, and if Russia has control of the bridges, it limits Ukraine's ability to access across the river. Okay, moving on to operational overview for Kupiansk in the north. And oops, it's not the bridge too far. I've forgotten to change this little subtitle. Sorry. Kupiansk up here. We were down here, and we're now moving up here to the extreme flank where Russia is currently trying some sneaky stuff. And what they are trying to do is to push down into the woods here. This is also territory they managed to gain and control and shut down. Right, they gained this territory during their own offensive during the winter and spring. And now they've, according to reports, begun to push down. We haven't seen anything on the maps, really. But reports are saying that Russia is trying and pushing hard into the woods. But it appears as if Ukraine is actually holding the line at the moment. And why is Russia doing this? Well, they're not after Kupiansk. I think they're like down around Cremina. They want to control the area to the east of the river. And that means Kucherivka and Podoli, obviously, and the bridges. But also to get down here to Petropavlivka and cut off this road here. Because Petropavlivka, if they can get down here and cut and gain control of the road here, they cut a vital supply line for Ukraine down to the front line here. And this is an area where Russia has been attacking all year. They haven't made any real gains, territorial gains here, but they've been trying all year during their own offensive to push through here, coming out of Svatove, following the highway here into Ukrainian territory. But they failed so far, so Russia is probably moving down here to cut the supply line, which would make it easier for Russian forces to push Ukraine back. And then you have a potential pincer move here in the north that will allow Russia to gain control of territory east of the river and the lake. Something like this. So they push down here, gain control of the territory of and cut the supply line, allowing Russian troops from Svatove to push in and reach the bridge here, vital. There's a couple of more bridges, I think, to gain control here. And if they manage this, well, then they can start to slowly gain control over this area, and then obviously begin pushing south once they are in control of the bridges, so Ukraine can't counterattack. Gonna take a closer look, a tactical overview of Luman Pershoy, Death in the Woods. Luman Pershoy, and this, from the Russian-controlled territory to the edge of the woods, it's 5 kilometers. That's not that far. Not very far at all. So we're going to begin with taking a look at this area. You can see here, Russia has moved up to the road, and they are, according to the map, at a sharp angle controlling the woods up here, left side of the road, and then follow the road. So this area. Here we go. Russian-controlled territory, east, right-hand side of the red line, and again, open territory, marked with X's to show that even in a forest, you will be guided by the terrain where you can move and how you can operate. Before we take a look at that, I want to zoom in on this. We have what appears to be a railroad or highway moving along here. And whatever this is, potentially controls Russia's ability to cross this open ground if they want to move in from here, right? And we can see we have a couple of buildings, and this must be a railroad, right? So this is a railroad cutting straight through the forest, and this station, whatever it is, it might be for forest industry, cutting down trees and such. What do you think? Deforest industry. Obviously, these buildings will be prime targets for mortars, machine guns, autocannons, tanks, what have you. If you set up defensive positions here, it's, you have good protection, and you can, with machine guns, cover to the north using RPGs and LAWs or what have you. You can pretty much lock down the open terrain between the woods. However, how do you counter it? Call in the indirect fire. Flatten and obliterate the buildings with artillery, or a tank that navigates here up close, fires from cover, and just blasts the building. So I don't know if Ukraine wants to hold the building. They probably are, because it's natural. You know, it's a big building, and provides good cover, and you naturally want to set up defenses inside. The problem is, of course, the enemy will just call in artillery, mortars, and boom, gone. So that is here. Sorry, still struggling with the cold. What I didn't do on the previous tactical map was show how open ground guides movement. Right, so if Russia is attacking from the north, they can't attack over here. It's open territory. So they will probably move down here and here, because this lane here is where they can link up. If they move down east and west of the field, they want to link up, and they do that here between these two fields. And Ukraine should be able to predict this. Russia will come down this way and link up. So Ukraine knows that this area here is a good place to have adequate defenses, trench lines, foxholes. Same thing as we go down here. We have this open field here and open field here, and this is probably freshly planted forest, I think. So still good terrain for infantry to move through, but you know, open ground nonetheless, which means Russia in that case, well, they are forced to move in between here and forced to move in between here. Again, you can look at the map and guesstimate. It's a favorite word of mine. Guesstimate, guessing and estimation combined, where the enemy will move. Same through here. Yes, it's not thick forest. This is still good terrain to move through. This is actually good terrain for vehicles. So Russia might push down some vehicles into this part of the woods. And again, open fields, you know Russia will go this way, this narrow stretch of forest right here. Same thing over here. They won't go out here, they won't go out here, they will go here, and possibly even this very narrow stretch here. So what I want to highlight is Ukraine can look at the map and calculate where Russia is most likely to come at them, such as down here, and here. So when you're fighting here, it's much more difficult, because here you can apply pressure, outflank, and if you breach through, you can start to send troops through the breach and force the enemy to fall back and stuff like that. But as soon as if Russia gets this far, they're in trouble, because right now they can't outmaneuver anything. Now they're being funneled into Ukrainian defensive positions, right? So here they can outmaneuver. Here they can't. It's like Thermopylae, right? Quite literally. The Greeks used a narrow stretch of the road with mountains on one side and the ocean on the other, and the Achaemenid Empire could only come at them at this narrow stretch of road. And it's sort of the same here. Russia must come in this way or this way. So yeah, it's hard fighting according to reports, but I can see why Ukraine is holding. Because Russia knows that all these open fields, they're not fun. They make it difficult to advance, even in these large, wide woodlands. And moving on south of this area here, next to Sinkivka, same thing. Goddamn headset. Sinkivka, same thing here. You got the open roads that cut across the forests, so open lanes that you can control with anti-tank weapons and machine guns. Open fields that forces the enemy to move along certain paths. I mean, take a look at this. If Russia gains control of, God damn it, excuse me, gets this far down here. This is freshly planted woods, risky territory to move through. But if they get down here, well, they won't be attacking from here. It's too easily defended. They will be attacking from up here, right? And if they get down this far, they can only attack here, they can only attack here and here, because these fields becomes obstacles, because you don't want to cross them. If you cross them, you will die. So even if they're flat territory, flat ground, and really there's no problems walking across, but since there's no cover, you're gonna get shot to bits trying to cross it. So they become obstacles. Same thing down here. If Russia manages to secure all the way down here, then this field here is an issue. And so yeah, this is the southern tip. According to reports, they are pushing really hard into the woods here, trying to gain these 5 kilometers of woodlands. So we'll see what happens in a couple of days. We might get more updates on the maps and find out what has been going on this past week. So what are Russia's objectives with all of this? I believe they are trying to lock Ukraine in place in the south while attacking in force themselves in the north. So Ukraine has for quite some time prepared for a southern offensive, and Russia has realized this as well and built massive fortifications all across the southern front. There are fortifications all the way north as well, but they really put the effort into the defenses down south, because this is the obvious place for a Ukrainian counteroffensive. It's the most difficult area for Russia to send in reinforcements and keep soldiers resupplied. And Ukraine partisans and special forces have been attacking supply lines the entire year. So there was no surprise when the attack began in the south. This is where they want to push Russia back to the Azov Sea. And Russia knew this. They realized this. So what do I think they have planned? I think they have intentionally planned to lock Ukrainian army in place down here and draw them into combat and make sure they commit to this offensive. And when Ukraine was stuck in combat, that's when Russia intended to launch a counteroffensive of their own to counter the Ukrainian counteroffensive, far away from the Ukrainian main army, against a potentially weak northern Ukrainian front line, in order to punch through and gain ground all the way up to this river and this lake, this huge lake, and use that as a natural barrier to protect and defend the territorial gains they've made. And from here, they are at an excellent position to push out to Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, and Izium. And even there's a bridge down here that allows them to push south so they can link up with troops outside of Bakhmut and at Soledar, encircling Ukrainian troops here. So that's what I think Russia has planned. I think they plan to tie up Ukrainian forces in the south with using the counteroffensive against Ukraine itself, and then launch their own attack up here to outmaneuver Ukraine. And now, if they're successful, they will be able to threaten Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, and they will be able to, quite possibly, encircle Ukrainian forces over here. So that's what I think Russia is up to, and by God, I hope I'm wrong, and I most definitely hope that they fail utterly. We'll see what happens, but yeah, go to hell, Russia, and go på marsch, Ukraine.